Hello and welcome to the Bearded Math Man's YouTube channel. Hey, in this episode, what we're going to be talking about is variation. It's a great topic in math. It's a great topic in algebra because, well, what we do in math is we write math to compare things. And if you want to write math that compares things that change, well, that's exactly what variation is. And it is a great topic because it's going to help you greatly learn how to be better at writing equations and solving equations. Now, this symbol right here, this is proportional. It's very similar to what we're doing, but we're not going to be using that symbol. We're going to be using just equations, right? So here's our first example. Let's say that the number y varies directly with the number x. So the key term here, the key word is directly. What directly means is that both quantities grow in the same direction. So if the values are getting smaller for y, the values are going to also get smaller for x. But if y is getting larger, x is also going to get larger. That's what directly varies means. An example would be, say that the cafeteria at school was serving leftover sushi that they got at the gas station. Well, the cases of dysentery are going to be directly proportional to how much leftover sushi was served, right? Now, here's what we do first. When we have a situation where we have direct variation, we write y equals k times x. Now, k is my favorite oxymoron. It is the constant of variation. But what it does is it describes the relationship between x and y, between y and x, right? So that's the first thing you do is you write y equals kx because that is how these relationships for direct variation works. Do not skip writing that. Is super important. Now, we're given a clue here. It says that when y is 12, x is 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our equation. We're going to plug in 12 for y. We're going to plug in 3 for x. We're going to solve, divide both sides. I don't even think you need to do that. You know that 4 times 3 is 12, so k equals 4, right? Now, the next step is the one that everybody forgets all the time, and that is, now that we have the value of k, we need to write our formula. This is our equation right here that fits our situation, and this is what we use to answer any of the questions that follow. So an example of a question that could follow would be, hey, what is x when y is 9? All you got to do, plug it in, right? Plug in y is 9. You know that k is 4. Divide both sides by 4. Boom, you're done. So let's go ahead and take a recap of what we did. If you're having a situation where both of the values grow in the same direction, that's direct variation. Sometimes problems tell you it's direct. Sometimes you have to read and understand. But direct variation, if as y grows, x grows, or if as y shrinks, x also shrinks. That's direct variation. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start off by writing y equals k times x. You plug in your values that you're given. You solve for k. The most important step, the one everybody always forgets, is you have to write your new equation. Y equals whatever number you found for k times x. Then you use that to answer whatever questions are following, right? Now, let's talk about the other type of variation. It's called inversely proportional or indirect variation or inverse variation, right? So here's what it's going to say. It says the number y varies inversely with the number x. Now, inversely is the other way. If y grows, x shrinks. If x grows, then y shrinks. So an example would be the more time you spend playing video games, the less time you have to get some studying done. And here's what the equation that we start with looks like. It's y equals k divided by x. So other than that, it's pretty much the same thing. It's a different relationship. It's inverse, right? So if we were told that when y is 10, x is 4, we plug in 10 for y, 4 for x, and we solve for k. And then the most important part is you have to write your formula. So y equals 40 divided by x. K is 40. Y equals 40 divided by x. That's what we're going to use to solve anything else that comes. So in this example, let's say y is 8, and we have to figure out what x is. Well, you put 8 for y, and you solve. Now, this is a little tricky because this is 40 divided by x. So we have to get x out of the numerator. We're going to do that by multiplying. That's how you get 8x. So 8 times 5 is 40. Boom, we're done. Maybe you can figure that out in your head. 40 divided by what is 8. But if it was an answer that was a decimal or a fraction, that might be a little trickier to figure out. But let's go ahead and summarize what we have so far, shall we? Here's what we know. We know that the first thing you've got to do is you have to identify if the relationship described is inverse or direct. If it's direct, you're going to write y equals k times x. If it's inverse, you're going to write y equals k divided by x. Then you plug in your initial values that allow you to solve for k. You solve for k, and then this fourth step is the most important one. It's the one everybody always forgets. You have to write your original equation, replacing k with the number that you found it to be. Then you use that to plug in your values to find whatever it is you're supposed to figure out. Pretty easy, right? So what's the catch? Well, there really isn't one, except that you have to be very careful with the situation. You have to read it very, very carefully. So here's an example of one that can be a little tricky. It says, given that y varies directly with the square of x, and when y is negative 7, x is 3, find the value of y when x is 5. So this question is all together at once. It's not broken down like the others were, but we're going to start the same way. Varies directly is going to be y equals k times x, but this says that it varies directly with the square of x. So that's x squared. So now we just plug in our values. We know that y is negative 7, x is 3. So 3 squared is 9. Divide both sides by 9. Negative 7/9 is what k is. So this right here, have to write it. This is what you're going to use to answer any other question. Now, the question we're being asked is to find out the value of y when x is 5. So all you got to do is plug in 5. 5 squared is 25. You have 7 quarters. You have $1.75. Boom, you're done. No big deal. So, big idea. First thing you got to figure out, is it direct or inverse variation? You write your initial generic equation. You find out what k is. You write your specific equation for the problem you have. You use that specific equation to solve for whatever it is that they're asking you to do. It's not too bad. Hey, if you're interested in trying some practice problems, I'll put a link in the description below, but you can go to my website, thebeardedmathman.com, and you just click on assignment and you will find this assignment right there. Hey, if this was useful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, it's free, what's to lose, right? Share it on social media. Until next time, I hope you have a great day.